Hey everyone, welcome back. And this is the continuation of my fanfic reading of Sly Lady 345's, 345's Beside Himself, a Sly Cooper fanfic. This is Chapter 2, Court Date. Now this is going to be longer because this chapter's quite a bit longer, actually. So yeah, anyways, let's get right down to it then. The courtroom only allowed cops and the judge. The cops prosecuting me and the judge sending me to my doom on command. Already I saw security there holding cuffs to drag me away with. This was bad. I figured that I could escape, though looking at all the security pistols and glaring eyes, I stayed seated in the cold wooden chair I was provided. All the while I wondered what Dante had meant. He'd lose his job if helped me, and I felt strange about letting a cop give up his job for my sake. However, how could I ruin the bright future he obviously had? After all, my life was basically over. Nothing left but the meaningless void of stealing things and getting money. He'd been so determined, so confident that he'd rescue me. Why would he even care what happened? As my thoughts roamed, I realized that he wanted to join my gang. So he thought if he rescued me, that I would let him join. It actually hurt to think this way, being rescued only for the sake of a membership. I couldn't complain about it, and like always, I'd shoved down my feelings in a hole for the purpose of somebody else. I'd done that a lot in my life, pushed aside my feelings for other people, and never got rewarded. To think, I actually thought for a mere moment of my life that somebody had cared, and in reality, all I wanted was a job besides being a cop. Those images of jail appeared in my mind over and over as I awaited the beginning of the court session. What if it was all a cruel joke? A chance at freedom? The court date was just a setup like Dante had said, or maybe even Dante was persuading me to think he was actually going to rescue me, then laugh in my face later on. Bars weren't meant for me. I'd go crazy without freedom to roam the world. They just would glare at me all day, as would the cops outside the cell, that they would make sure they had for the sake of containing me. I'd rather die, honestly, than be in prison. I'd heard a lot about prisons. My friends had been in them, and when they got out, they were gone. No more jokes, no more personality. Just a blank canvas with no emotion, with no lust for living life. As I sat there, I felt that come across my features. The blank white of nothingness. Nobody really cared if I lived. Nobody cared if I died. I had wasted so much time chasing after unobtainable love, and now I was flat out broke of any will to live. This was the worst epiphany to have before a court session with my life at stakes. I just prayed the feeling would disappear. All rise for the Honorable Judge Merton. I found myself standing up despite the suspicion of foul play in my stomach. An odd gray-haired bat entered the courtroom and took a seat. Looking more powerful than Carmelita had been when she captured me, he spoke. "You can now be seated." Despite the frail old look of him, he had a monstrous voice that sounded as if he wanted to suck the blood straight from my veins. Carmelita was on the prosecuting side as predicted, and I also saw Dante. My heart cracked at that. He said he would help me, and it looked as if now he was helping me be killed, or even worse, locked up for life. Anger spread like wildfire across my features, but I took small breaths, calming myself of the fury and rage. After a moment of the shuffling through papers and my face going blank again, he looked up directly at me. "Where's your lawyer, Mr. Cooper?" "I don't have one," I replied with a sigh as I let my head slump in my hand. "Then you'll defend yourself." His voice retorted snootly. "Yes, sir." "Come on, Cooper," I urged myself. "You have to come to life. Nobody's going to take you seriously if you don't even want to live." My mind retorted this. You're screwed either way, pal." My heart sort of wavered. True. Finally, they agreed on something that they both didn't care what happened to me. Wow, I am one messed up pup. "I call Sly Cooper to the stand," Carmelita almost sang like opera. Great. I missed the opening statement just to salute situate the fact that even my organs wanted me dead. I walked the best I could with chains around my ankles, them slapping the floor like somebody getting beaten. The clanks and clangs stopped as I hopped into the new seat in front of Carmelita's penetrating gaze. The Bible was given to me, and I made my promise along with Inspector Fox. Soon enough, we finished, and I was left sitting in front of her, whilst she paced in a parade right then and there. It became clear she never loved me. We seemed to have such a close relationship before, and now she had no pity for me. "So, Mr. Cooper," she began, placing her paws on the board separating us, "what kind of things do you steal?" I mulled over my answer. "I usually steal from other criminals, and mainly take jewels, statues, gold, and treasure maps on rare occasions." "Isn't it true that you have stolen from museums?" the fox asked with a smirk. "Yes, but..." I was interrupted by Carmelita, who raised a hand. "I've got an answer," she replied. "I just wanted to know if you stole from..." "I've got the answer," she replied. "I just wanted to know if you stole from museums, Mr. Cooper. Nothing more, nothing less." "Proceed," the judge said, seeming tired and irritable. "Have you ever pretended to be someone you weren't?" The vixen asked casually, looking at her nails. "Yes," I shrugged. A lot of times. Name them all, she crossed her arms. Well, a bartender, professional dancer, Mr. D-Cook, gangster, pimp, rocker guy, a hobo, male model, swordsman, tango instructor, guards in various places I've stolen from, an officer of Interpol, a constable, and I was about to continue a 2-hour speech, but the judge growled. That's enough examples, the judge said, ending my rant. Mr. Cooper, please explain to the jury of how the chase ending in your capture went, the female asked politely. I had stolen a painting from a museum called the El Dante, a picture of a vase of poorly painted flowers. When I reached outside after sneaking past all the security, lasers and guards, plus some annoying cameras, I was held up by Dante Fox. At pistol point, I mocked him and basically just had a conversation until he snapped. Then we gave chase across the rooftops, I resisting arrest and laughing at him. That is until Inspector Fox jumped in front of me and shot me in the chest, whilst another blast went into my back. I was paralyzed, cuffed, and thrown in a cell like a used piece of paper. The jury looked at me with raised eyebrows because of the honesty. Very honest, one whispered to another in disbelief. Now, Mr. Cooper, did you know that it was against the law? Carmelita questioned me. Yes, I knew and take full responsibility for taking the painting and breaking it as I landed on it. I gave a bright, toothy, sarcastic smile before straightening myself in the chair more firmly. Do you find this funny? She demanded. The painting was over $50,000. Pounding a fist against the counter. Really? I asked in confusion. The guy that I was selling it to was paying $700,000. That's out of term, Cooper, the judge yelled, slamming down wood. Sorry, Your Honor, just being honest, I retorted with a roll of the eyes. One last question. Is it true that you killed Dr. M? The fox questioned once again. What? I said, speechless. Did you kill Dr. M? Carmelita repeated, fire growling steadily in her eyes of revenge. No, I yelled. You did. The judge slammed down the wood again, and my ears flattened against my head, and my eyes shut closed at the noise being so close and loud. One more out-of-line thing, Cooper, and you're set for another court date, the judge threatened. Sorry, Your Honor, I replied, resisting the urge to say it mockingly. Explain to us what happened, Mr. Cooper, she hissed with a vengeful smirk on her face. My newly collected gang and I were planning on breaking into Dr. M's estate. It holds the vault of the Cooper clan, and I was going to add some things as well as take a look around. When we arrived, we were aware that he was trying to break into the vault, so we simply snuck past it, and I opened the vault with my cane. However, things got complicated, and he started shooting me. Then my accomplice Bentley and I fled from the confrontation, just ready to forget about the whole venture. However, he followed us and ended up making me a squeeze toy for his monster, trying to kill me, or at least make me tell him where the cane was that in our earlier sped had flown across the ocean. Close to death, Miss Fox came to my rescue. I soon recovered and vowed to get back inside. We got in through force, and I'd gotten my cane back, which helped. Soon enough, I traveled through the large vault, through many trials and tribulations, and entered the inner sanctum of that Dr. M had followed. Dr. M had followed me and started to shoot madly at me until I was weakened. Carmelita Fox, who had earlier disappeared, fighting off the mutant monster built by Dr. M, busted through the door to the vault and was instantly shot at by Dr. M. I ran in front of the bullet, disregarding any well-being for myself, and was thrown across the room into the wall, knocked unconscious. When I was awakened by Carmelita, I saw Dr. M sprawled out on the concrete, knocked out. The inspector then proceeded to lie to me about who I was, but after a few minutes I remembered whom I was, and after a couple of months of dating her, dumped her for thievery. The court was now silent. I only asked for what happened that night. The female fox growled at me with much anger, so much that it could melt the polar ice caps much faster than how fast they were melting. No more questions, Your Honor, she added, stepping down and returning to her seat next to her brother, who tilted his head at me. I began chewing on the inside of my mouth in nervous fashion, and even more so when Dante approached me. He looked very handsome in the tux he was wearing, a nice, elegant blue tux that complemented every aspect of his body, and very tight around his muscle-gained areas. To top it all off, he had a nice, straightened, cleanly looped tie draped from his neck, giving a weak attempt at a smile. My neck tilted to a knot. "Mr. Cooper," he began, his very words making me shiver. The sweet honey voice that he'd shown me before, now gone, replaced with a deep authority. "You admitted that you faked memory loss, correct?" Yes, my mouth was now dry, and for a second I felt as if the world was crashing into swirling darkness. I felt faint and grabbed my head with a shaky paw, keeping myself composed. "You realize that is a violation of the law. Also, why did you do it?" He asked me two very strong-worded questions. Sighing, I plopped my forehead into my palm, then raised my head. "Yes, I do realize that it is against the law, and know why. The reason I faked memory loss was because for the fact that I'd grown a little fond of Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox. So I took advantage of the situation, gave up everything I knew to live the way she lived every day, and to get closer to her. Soon enough, she showed that she didn't care about how I felt, nor did she care about my desires. Only for me to be a cop and mindless drone. So I left her with a note, then rejoined my gang, who had been waiting for me to come back, and ended the memory loss hoax. The hurt in my eyes was evident, but soon I let it fade into my face and showed nothing but a line. That blank was back, and this time I'm sure it was staying for a long time. Who is your gang, and what do they do exactly? Dante asked, leaning in front of me, looking at me with a slight pitiful expression before he let it melt away into seriousness. Bentley is the bomb builder and overall genius behind the plans to steal. Penelope is his soon-to-be wife and deals with building machines, also a very skillful planner. Murray is our getaway driver, who is used in some dire cases for brute force and heavy lifting. The guru is our mystic, who controls people's minds and can blend into the surroundings as well as make peace among us. Dimitri is our waterman, deals with anything having to do with water tactics, and sometimes goes undercover alongside me. The Panda King is our demolitions expert and deals with mostly blowing things up. Also is used for brute force in martial arts. Dante noticed I was sweating and my voice was now shaking. Silently, without a word, he walked over to the table and got me a glass of water, handing it to me with a small smirk. I thanked him and gulped it down. Now, the Panda King and Dimitri were enemies of yours. What happened there? Hold on a sec. Okay, so I got plenty of time left of what I have on here, so yeah. The Panda King, yes, did murder my father, or helped more so. Though after our fight 2 years later, we fought once again until I convinced him to talk with me. After talking with him, I agreed to rescue his daughter who'd been kidnapped by General Sao. Once restoring her to him and defeating Sao, he joined the gang and forgave me, as I did to him. Dimitri was in a holding cell as far as I could tell, and I had broken into Interpol Station, France. Actually, I think you mean Italy. Something I noticed there. To get information on where Murray might be. Murray had left the gang after he felt guilt for my other crime partner's legs getting paralyzed. Simply, the lizard offered me information on my friend, so I tricked the cops into following me after I picked the locks to his cell and set him free. Later, he joined the gang after I gave him another favor. Why don't you tell us the ventures you had from the beginning? Dante requested, pouring me another glass of water with sincerity. The judge had leaned back, looking at me curiously, as well as the jury. Is that okay, Your Honor? The fox asked with a bow. Proceed. he replied, crossing his arms, waiting to hear my story. Well, at age 7, I think you mean 8. Sorry, I just noticed these little things. 5 members of a gang known as the Fiendish Five broke into my house, killed my parents, and left me an orphan. So they sent me to Happy Campers Orphanage, where I met 2 other children who also had thieving in their blood by the names of Murray and Bentley. Soon enough, we pulled a small meaty-core heist, and later hot-wired a car and left the place. We found a hideout and made ourselves up a nice little house. Soon enough, we pulled a real heist, in which I was briefly captured, but ended up getting the real criminal caught, also taking a jewel while I was there as a reward. Soon, I decided to get my book back that the Fiendish Five had taken after killing my father. So I, with my 2 friends, single-handedly reclaimed the book piece by piece, taking down the criminals. Raleigh, Ms. Ruby, Mugshot, Panda King, and lastly the mortal enemy of my clan, Clockwork. Soon after regaining the book, we took out time to dig up information on Murray's parents. We then tracked his dad down. Murray, us, and his dad pulled 40 straight nights of heists. Right after that, we found out that the cops had put Clockwork parts in the Museum of Paris history. I like they tracked them down. I always wondered why Bentley and Murray's parents and no members of the clan were ever seen in the games. Kind of sad, really. We set out to get them before another gang known as the Claw Gang did. Though they beat us to the punch, so we had to go through the following criminals: Dimitri Rajan twice. Rajan spelled Ragan, just in case you're curious. The Contessa, Jean Bizon, Arpeggio, and Clockla, aka Constable Neela. After defeating Clockla, however, there was an accident in which my partner's legs were snapped. We had no time for a getaway, and so I gave myself up for them to the French police, who tossed me in a helicopter from which I escaped. Afterwards, the gang split up, and I did a couple of heists by myself, stealing from small-time burglars. Soon, the gang was back together for about 2 months. Murray left to the Australian outback to train for his spiritual center and so forth. Bentley and I were left to heist in museums, and yes, we did sell the items, but then stole them back, leaving them promptly on Miss Fox's desk, more so me. After a while, we came across valuable information about the Cooper Vault, so we decided to gather a gang. Along the way, we took down criminals: Octavio, Mask of Dark Evil, I think you mean Earth, Lefouille, Blue Viper Gang, General Sal. There's supposed to be a T at the beginning of Sal, and the first time you said it in this chapter, you did have a T, but the second time and this time you have an I. And Dr. M. all the while collecting gang members: Murray, Dimitri, Penelope, Panda King, and the Guru. We ended up breaking into the vault, and you know the rest. Soon after leaving back to thievery, we began stealing from more criminals and museums, and always returning the items we stole after stealing them for money, of course, or after selling them for money, of course, to Inspector Fox's desk. Everything we have stolen has been from criminals, and items from museums that were promptly returned to Carmelita's top desk drawer. Also, we did a couple of heists in which we dug up things on Bentley's past, but found his parents were dead. Interesting. Though stealing from criminals is just stealing money they stole from innocents. You know that, correct? Dante asked, refilling my glass as my caramelized fluttered. Yes, but in turn we leave the criminals to be brought to justice, I replied. Usually Inspector picks up their bodies off the floor from which I fought them and sends them to prison. That's all, Your Honor. Dante raised his hands. The session went on for a long time, and the lunch break was more interesting than expected. I, having no lawyer, nor money on hand, was left sitting in my chair with nothing to eat. I didn't want to eat, really. I was too afraid I'd throw it up from the looks of my shaking body. The cops were out enjoying food, and I was left in the courtroom with security all around. Sighing, I slumped forward on the table, ready to sleep, though I felt a hand touch my back and chair scoot across the marble floor. Soon enough, the sweet smell of Italian pasta filled my nose. Lifting my head up, I saw Dante again, looking worried, and pointed it at me. I heard it was your favorite. His voice now, honey, once again. Why are you doing this? Why do you care? I replied, still dying to know. I'm not letting you quit. You don't want to be a criminal. Trust me. It leads nowhere. And before I could say another word, I had a biteful of spaghetti shoved in my mouth. The tangs of the sauce made me close my eyes while chewing. I heard a deep chuckle. Calm down, he almost ordered me to. Oh, and I can quit if I want to. Plus, the reason I'm looking out for you is because when I quit, I'll score me brownie points with your gang when I show up at your doorstep. I was about to reboot about how I didn't like being used, when suddenly once again he leaned in closer to my ears and whispered, also more so because I find you very attractive and I'd like to maybe score a date. My eyes widened at this. What? He simply smiled and slunk away from me back to his side of the courtroom where his fellow officers had gathered. He winked at me, and I can honestly without a doubt say my heart stopped at the sight of losing eye contact with those desirable green eyes, or at least one of them for even a second. What was happening to me? I could I, I couldn't be falling for him, could I? No, it's not possible. Has the jury reached a decision? The judge asked the box containing the jury members, more so the cops Dante had said would be there. They all nodded, and one who looked to be an ex-Marine rose from his seat, a large pit bull by the name of Jones. We find Sly Cooper guilty of all charges and sentence him to be hung at 2:00 p.m. tomorrow. Do they even hang people in this country anymore? Or even in, I don't know, France, probably where it's at. I don't think so. The room felt smaller after that. The jury exited the room, as did the judge after saying the case was closed. The security guards got to do what they had been wanting to do all day. One grabbed me, one arm whilst the other grabbed my other arm, basically carrying me out due to them being freakishly taller than I. Struggling at this point, I wasn't even needed. I didn't even care. They just threw me in a cell as I had been before. I always kind of knew it would end this way. I mused out loud, leaning up against the brick wall, but I always figured I'd care more. You should care, the honey voice responded harshly. Soon Dante appeared in front of me, in front of my cell with a look of stern. You didn't even try to lie the slightest bit. So, what would have been the point? They would have done the same either way, and in the end, I don't really care. I've got nothing anyways. Slumping back even more than before, I let my eyes slam shut. It was strange how I could always feel his eyes staring at me. What, Dante? I yelled, looking up to expect him behind the bars, but instead he was inside my cell, standing over me. Before I could say anything, he had went across both my nose and mouth. My hands came around his own through his other hand, though his other hand grabbed mine in a very tight grasp, pinning them behind my back. My brown eyes widened in fear, and I struggled against him. His leg went over the front of my body, and he fell back into a sitting position on my cot. What are you doing? I wanted to say all that, but all that came out was, I'm just keeping my promise, he replied, slick and smooth, as he knew what I had been trying to ask through his soft furred hand. Slowly my eyes closed, and the last thing I felt was him throwing me over his shoulder and hearing a thumping of his feet on the solid concrete floor of the jail. Blackness. And that is it for Chapter 2, Court Date. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this reading. Once again, a very good chapter. I really enjoyed it. A few minor mistakes here and there, but overall, I thought it was really good. So, yeah, but anyways, next time I will be reading Chapter 3, entitled New Member, with a question mark at the end of it. Alright, so yeah, but anyways, overall, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. See you after, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Remember, as always, I'll put a link in the description box below to the chapter that I read in this video, so that you can read it yourself if you want to, or the entire thing, you know. So yeah, but anyways, overall, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. See you after, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.